So what we're first going to do is create a cylinder here. I'm going to use 48 sides because that'll give me an even number of duplicates that I can make for the actual tread to match correctly. I'm just centering everything up here, zeroing everything out. I'm going to start off with a plane. It's just easier to get quick edits and feel out a shape just by doing a flat plane and modeling on top of it and editing it. Trying to achieve a stubby tread shape, and I'm only doing one side because we're going to end up mirroring it over. And that'll really reduce our amount of time that we're having to spend on modeling this. That looks about good. Maybe bevel it out. The purpose of this is for a bake, so you want to exaggerate bevels even if it doesn't look too realistic. You want to be able to try to squeeze as much out of the normal map as possible. And I could have squeezed it more, but I didn't want to go too terribly crazy. I might exaggerate it in the future, but for now this should work out fine. Pull this down a little bit more. And I'm gonna connect this down the middle and add a little bit of an arc here just to kind of give it some form and shape. And I'm not going to be actually connecting this with the rubber because of the fact that that actually is extremely time consuming. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically conforming the shape to how I want the tire to flow. And even though this will be a little bit more unrealistic, it'll be hidden by the bake really, really well. So I'm just scaling this up and going to connect my plane here in the middle. Just use a symmetry and basically make just a reference here and see how it will fit. We'll go ahead and skip 2 right now. And since it's 48, half of 48 is 24, which is why I made 23 duplicates. But in the end, I'm going to use all 48. And I'm using edge constraints here to help me edit quicker and not have to really worry about messing up the alignment and the actual edge flow. Just kind of tweaking these to give it a little bit better spacing, and gonna add some more support edges here. We'll go ahead and connect it down the middle. That'll help with the actual sharpness of the whole tread. That looks about right there. Just adding some more support edges to help keep the shape. And it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and make a material that will just kind of separate the color of the wireframe in the background from the actual object so I can work on it a little bit easier. Alright, now pretty much just for the absolute heck of it, we're going to add a hole here in the tread. And even though this really wouldn't be picked up on your texture or anything, it's kind of fun to do and it doesn't take too long. And if you do have more time, then it's better to do something like this than trying to just achieve it in the texture if you have the time to actually work on this in the modeling stage, because of the fact that you can capture a lot of different things upon bake, and those can come in really handy when creating your diffuse and your normal map. grab this vert and just chamfer it out. I'm going to try to get the largest chamfer that I can without overblowing or skewing my area here. And I'll just connect it up, and then I'll use this center vert here, and I'll connect it to the outer four corners, which will then create a 8-sided cylinder. Even though right now it's still in box form, we'll edit it up and make it look like a cylinder. Once again, I'm using edge constraints, and that just allows me to move pretty much at will while keeping everything constrained and looking nice. So I'm just creating a cylinder, and this is going to be used for reference. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's good to have it centered up pretty well, and then place it and rotate it in the correct manner so that we can just use it as a template. It looks a bit small. I think I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And now just using those edge constraints, I'm just moving and scaling these verts to try and match up the verts of the actual cylinder that I created before for reference. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with that. We'll go ahead and get rid of that, and I'm also going to get rid of the polygons here in the center because of the fact that this is going to be where our hole is created. And I'm checking to make sure and see that there's no warping or nasty junk happening, which there isn't. So we can move on and actually start modeling out this hole. Just giving it some support edges, and I'm going to ring this polygon group here and extrude it. That's a bit much, probably about 0.8 will be good. And that's looking pretty decent. Even though it's not too big of a hole, it'll serve its purpose well. I'm just creating this center tread here and just playing around with shape and extruding and moving these verts around. Looks a little bit bulky at the moment, but we'll fix it up. Just going to kind of extend this out, give it a little bit more of a unique shape, and pull this in because it's really creating too much of an arc. Straighten it out, and I'm going to go ahead and scale this down as well because it's a bit big compared to the tread that it's next to, so I'm going to go ahead and center up my pivot and apply a symmetry modifier and a shell modifier, and then I'm also going to apply a smooth modifier and then get rid of everything using selection by angle, which is a very helpful tool. Just gotta make sure you don't select anything else. A little bit high. So once again, we're going to create a bevel here, even though on the reference that I'm looking at, there really is no bevel. But we want to extract that normal map information out because the low poly is not going to have any of these treads actually modeled in. I'm just creating some support edges here. They're pretty messy at the moment, so I'll fix those up. Make sure that my edge constraints are on. That way, whenever I start scaling here, it's still constrained to the edges. That's looking pretty good. We can go ahead and delete the left half and deactivate by angle. There we go. and just throw it into a symmetry. Apply the material, and I'm going to add in a couple more loops here, just some areas that I missed. And that's looking good. I'm also going to add some slats onto this, just little bits of rubber for traction. And I'm going to extract them off of the already existing topology of the tread itself. This is really useful because now I don't have to recreate all this. I can just get the exact degree, the exact shape, and just make a copy of it and then edit it. Also gonna connect this and just get rid of the top here, and also on the bottom I'm gonna get rid of the bottom. That way it's not right up against the lower level topology and it kind of sets it apart from the tread itself. Once again, we're applying a bevel here. So the best way to think about it is pretty much everything should bevel if you want it to show up. Even though, especially for me, it's a big problem to conquer because of the fact that I like things whenever they look very realistic. But in terms of just baking out, you have to make sacrifices, and sometimes you gotta make something look really, really crazy and just really blow it out of proportion so that whenever it does bake down, it looks correct. Just gonna also add in a couple edge loops at the top here. There we go. That's looking pretty good. We can see it's curving very nicely with how the tread actually curves. I'm going to apply a turbo smooth here to match them up and see how well they curve together, which it's retained the curve nicely. We're going to start on just some little teeth for the tire to kind of grip with. And it's going to be just a really, really basic shape, but it'll add that little extra level of detail. Just using some more edge modeling, and really, really like edge modeling because it's fast, it's efficient, you can manipulate things very, very quickly, and that combined with your quick slice tool is just amazing, or your swift loop tool. It's really important that you get used to using your different keyboard shortcuts because they really do help you in terms of speed and efficiency. Just placing this into the mesh a little bit. Once again, we're not connecting it to the actual mesh, which is something that I would do in terms of making something look realistic whenever modeling it out. But once again, this is just going to be baked down, and it's going to be for just capturing details, not only in the normal map, but giving me a base whenever I create an ambient occlusion or a light map, just depending on if I use mental ray or scanline. I'm just pretty much placing them anywhere I think is necessary, or you might see them on an actual tread. Just give it maximum coverage with these little teeth. Also on the middle tread here. It looks pretty good. Gonna attach them all together and then just apply some different scaling methods. Just kind of edit them to the right size and right height. I don't want them sticking up too much because then I'll start capturing sides in the bake. So we have 47, which plus the one that's already created is 48. So I'm going to go ahead and attach all these objects together, and this will make our full-on tread. And I'll also align my pivot to the center of the object and reset the X-form. And now I'm going to use the bend modifier with 360-degree angle, -90 direction, and on the Y-axis. So I'm going to start working on the rim. So I'm just making sure I've got this one side selected and deleting it. And once again, I'm going to go in and just do edge modeling using the reference next to me. Not really going off of it crazily, I'm just kind of eyeballing it and scaling pieces, moving pieces, and just trying to capture the general shape. Chances are people aren't going to be looking at the exact image or concept art that you're using, so little tiny tweaks or changes in the design, a lot of people aren't even going to notice. So if you think something looks better, even if it's not shown in the actual image, but you have a good eye for catching those types of design changes, then go ahead and implement them. Just creating the rubber here, and I'm gonna pull this out a little tiny bit so that gives it the nice bevel. I'm not going to close this off. I'm actually going to just push it and hide it behind the mesh and scale it up a little bit more. And then add a support edge here. There's no reason in creating all these polygons here if you'll never see them. Now I'm going to start adding support edges here so that whenever I apply my Turbo Smooth, everything retains the shape in which I want it to. There we go. And now I'll apply a Turbo Smooth to this and take a look at it, and it's looking pretty good. I'm going to start on the actual rim now, just using some of my topology from my actual rubber from the tire. And once again, I'm just going to be using the reference here and using edge modeling. I'm going to create the actual rim's shape. I'm going to make one last little lip here. And scale it in. Make sure to get some nice bevels. I can also exaggerate these bevels inside of the normal map itself just by doing tweaks inside of Photoshop, which if you really don't have time to spend modeling really detailed objects and something's wrong and it's as simple as just like a cylindrical bevel, which is a lot of what we're dealing with in this model, then it's actually really easy to extract a lot more out of that map inside of a 2D application instead of spending the time tweaking it inside of your 3D application. I'm just using this topology and generating the inner part of the rim here. I'm going to give this a clover warp. It's kind of a simple design, but it can look nice. I'm going to convert this to verts and just scale out the design. See how much I want to exaggerate it, and then just start edge modeling the inner part of it. And have a bevel here. I'm going to add some edges here to help support this shape. And it's going to create this nasty little distortion in the middle, and that's because I do have it actually capped shut. There's an easy way to fix it though. You can either break it, or whenever you do this, you can go back in and clean it up by just selecting those overlapping edges. Grab this one and that one and that and remove it. Oh, and this one too. And then this shape is back to normal. Added some good support edges, and I'm going to make a material here which will allow me to see the bevel a lot easier. So I just give it some good spec and then apply it, and we can see how the specular reacts and if there's any issues with the bevels or with the edits that have been created so far. Once again, extracting using my already existing geometry. And also I'm going to grab this outer edge here. Even though it's not beveled, I'm going to go ahead and create a bevel. I'm also going to create 4 lug nuts here, so these actually need to be embedded in this mesh here. So I'm just setting up my reference and then just connect this right down the center and realign my reference. And it's going to need to be 8-sided, but for now it'll be alright. I'm going to use the same method. I'm going to chamfer it up, match my left and right vert, and then go ahead and give this 8 edges. And then edit this vert and this vert, and connect the verts to make a cross. And then using that center vert, I'm going to start connecting it to the actual outer 4 verts. And here I really don't need edge constraints because it is on a flat surface, so I can pretty much just move these around in whichever orientation way that I like, as long as I never move them along the z-axis. Get rid of this middle area here and create the actual hole that needs to exist. Give it a little bit of an edge there to help give it form and retain its shape. and then of course implement a bevel and cap it off. And also I'm going to extrude this outer ring here. And I won't bevel that since it's more just for uh, extracting for the diffuse map. And now you can see that we have a lot of areas missing those support edges, so I'm going to go back in here and just add those in where I need them. I'm just creating this center piece here where you'll be able to see the main center lug nut. And in the reference, it's got two bevels with a really small object sticking out of the tip, but I don't like it, but I'm going to see how it works. And if it doesn't look good in the end, I'm going to just go ahead and change it. And this is way too small. Just going to scale this up and grab all the center here. There we go, and scale that up. That looks a bit better. There we go. Apply turbo smooth, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead now and add support edges to the rim itself, which is something that I skipped initially. But that's because I was extracting different pieces of geometry out of it. And if you're doing that, the last thing you want to do is try to do it out of a high poly model with existing support edges. It's a hellish cleanup, especially for really complex models. Now I'm going to create some umbrella bolts. I'm going to do this using a 6-sided and an 18-sided cylinder, and then align the 18 and basically attach them to each other, and then edit the topology of the low poly one, and that'll allow me to quickly achieve the umbrella bolt's shape with hardly any effort at all. There we go. Looks pretty good. Go ahead and move this back. And I'm going to attach this object here. And then on the lower poly, I'm going to loop these two and connect them by 2. And then that'll match the topology of the higher resolution one. And I'll just start welding these points together. Very fast, very efficient, quick way to achieve a shape without trying to scale it manually. There we go. Just going to edit the front here. And now normally this bolt has some very crisp edges, but I'm actually going to give it a little bit more of an organic feel. And even though it looks more like a bubbly kind of bolt, it actually will pick up a little bit better. Just going to cap that and bring that back a little bit. And then add supporting edges where I need them. So there we go. It's got that bubbly kind of feel to it, but it'll pick up light a lot easier. So go ahead and align my pivot with this heavy bolt here, and that'll ensure that whenever I rotate it, it sticks to the orientation that I want it to. Make 3 copies. And I'm going to rotate them 45 degrees. And then attach them all together. And you can see that my X-form is being messed up, so once again, I'm just going to go in here and reset my X-form. It's good practice, and you can get some really nasty effects if you avoid doing that. I'm making the center lug nut here. And it's actually a really basic shape, so it won't be too difficult to create. Once again, this bevel looks really, really small in the reference, but we'll go ahead and give it a shot, see what it looks like in the end. I'm going to just align it to the center and then pull it out. You can see how small it needs to be to fit in this, so I really don't think that this is going to work, but I'll try. Apply a turbo smooth. It's looking pretty good. Just going to kind of fit it into the wheel here. Alright, so looking alright, and I honestly don't like that center, so I'm going to just delete this secondary bevel here and just create my own. In the end, I think that it just gets way too noisy and it gets too small. So having that larger and then having this centerpiece wider would really help it to just look like it's not going to snap. Makes it look a lot more durable. Also going to give this a little bit harder bevel here in the center and a little bit larger bevel. Apply the turbo smooth again, and that looks a lot better.